Tillamook County Junior Livestock Auction Committee. This is the County Fair podcast, where fair influencers share their valuable insights, strengthening and growing the long-lived tradition of the County Fair. This episode is brought to you by ShoWorks. ShoWorks fair entry software has set the gold standard for fairs across the United States and Canada for more than 20 years, serving more than 75% of the country's fairs. ShoWorks is a place to handle fair entries, billings, payouts, and the incorporation of virtual elements into your show and auction. Visit www.fairsoftware.com to learn more. And we always like to start our episodes with some scripture. So we have Philippians 4, verse 8 and 9. Fill your minds with those things that are good and deserve praise, things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, and honorable. Put into practice what you learned and received from me, both from my words and my actions. And the God who gives us peace will be with you. Philippians 4, 8, and 9. And we have two guests from the Tillamook County Junior Livestock Auction Committee today, Teri Fladstol and Dakota Lager. And Teri, she's from Jigsaw Consulting Services as well. She attended ShoWorks training back in March of 2020 to help several of our clients with their events. The pandemic threw a curveball into many of the events across the country, as we all know. And so she was able to work with Dakota and the ShoWorks team to keep things moving along as much as possible for both the 2020 and the 2021 fair. Dakota, he's the 4-H program coordinator at Tillamook County at the Oregon State University Extension Service, and he's been with the Tillamook County Program for 2 years, but has been around 4-H and county fairs for most of his life. Dakota attended ShoWorks training in March of 2020 as well, and jumped in to help get the auction committee online for the 2020 and 2021 fairs and the 4-H and FFA Youth. So we'll welcome both to the show, and introducing our host for today, Christina Rudolph.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Teri. Hi, Dakota.
Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, we're so glad to have you join us. I got to know you through your auction, and I was elated to get the opportunity to visit with you on the podcast. Specifically getting to know you through the auction, let's give our listeners a little bit of background. Tell our listeners where Tillamook is and what makes Tillamook so special, and a little bit of background behind the fair itself.
Our fair is over 125 years old. Tillamook is on the Oregon coast. We're about good 2 hours from Portland metro area, and we specialize in Tillamook is known for the Tillamook cheese factory. So most of Tillamook County is dairy and farmer related, a lot of agriculture. Dakota could probably add from a 4-H and FFA perspective, the amount of projects that are done through those programs.
Yeah, and Teri, you're forgetting one important factor and one tradition that we have at the Tillamook County Fair that probably a lot of our listeners don't know about. If you get a chance, we have the Pig and Ford races. If you've never seen the Pig and Ford races, that's a yearly tradition in Tillamook. I highly recommend Google searching the Tillamook County Fair Pig and Ford races. It's a relay race with the old Model T Fords, and they have to run out and grab a pig, go and turn start the Model T and run a lap, take the pig off, throw it back into a box and grab another one and do another lap. So it's a tradition that we've had.
They do not throw, Dakota. They actually gently put them in the box.
Okay, well, yeah, gently. Yeah. But it's a pretty big tradition for Tillamook. And it's kind of one of our unique things that we have. On the side of youth and kind of that background, and the youth auction, as the name implies, serves our youth. We have about a total of about 300 4-H members, and probably around 60 to 100 active FFA members in the county, and about 200 usually exhibit at the county fair each year. with around probably, and Teri would know this number a little bit better, around 60 to 80, maybe a little bit more that participate in the auction. So we all kind of use ShoWorks and in a little different ways, but it has helped to definitely manage all those kids.
So y'all have so many kids that y'all get to touch through the fair. How do y'all decide who makes the sale in Tillamook?
I'll take this one. So in a sense, it's based on our livestock judge. So we look at, we're a market standard or better auction. And so all of the animals in our auction go through judging as any other animal at a county fair would. And the idea is that they're making a quality grade standard or better, and that will allow them to enter that animal into the auction.
Excellent.
There are weights that are required. They get the Junior Livestock Auction Committee's rules that explain what that looks like over the period of their project and the rate of gain. And there's a whole lot of pieces that take place on an educational side, both through 4-H and FFA, and then Junior Livestock wants to support that, and all working toward the common goal of producing quality animals that meet the standards.
That's so critical and so important for our youth to learn this, even adults to learn and experience this. And so going through those sales in that fashion really brings a lot to the table. So thanks for your part that you're doing on the coast in Oregon for that. This year was a unique year for Tillamook Junior Livestock Auction. Y'all brought it. Y'all had some extraordinary numbers coming out of your sale in 2021. Teri, tell us a little bit about y'all's success.
We were stunned, and Dakota and I were both at the same table, kind of watching and dealing with buyers and everything. And couple of people told us they looked over, and he and I were over there high-fiving each other and, all excited. It was a real banner year, just from the standpoint of everybody coming on and understanding how much we were trying to do. And because we still had COVID restrictions and things that were going on at the state level, and actually on Friday when we had our auction, we also had the mask mandate come back. And so trying to figure out how all of that was going to play. And we weren't sure if people were going to not come, but they showed up. They loved, we were able to broadcast. And so they were seeing the auction on the TVs and would see what was up next. We got so many compliments on that, and they just loved basically from where we were in 2020 and where we were in 21, there was a lot more, a lot more focus maybe on the buyers and them being able to see what was next. We're used to working on the side of the kids, and so we typically are, focused on the kids. But this year we really turned it to the buyers and said, here's the information, here's what you need, here's how you can bid. We worked with them to, at the last minute, if you couldn't get on, I was at the table registering them, getting them on. We gave them a bidder number. We made sure that there was no obstacle in their way. And, we hit over, what was it, 360?
Yep.
Final numbers. And that was the highest we've ever gotten.
That's wonderful. It sounds like y'all really pulled out all the stops. Your buyers really showed up.
Oh, yes, they did. We were really excited. There's nothing like that live auction feeling of having that energy in the room and seeing, for people, it's always hard because if you're not there first and sitting right in the front row, it seems like, or you've got your spot, that you miss so much. So through some grants and some things that we worked with, we got 2 large TVs that we were able to put on either side of the auctioneer. And so they were seeing it as well as experiencing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. that really brings things to life and lets everyone truly experience what is happening in the ring. And when I'm at a baseball game or at a football game, I'm looking up on that screen. It's keeping me, my eyes are there, my eyes are down, and y'all brought that, to the sale barn. Yeah.
And we noticed a lot that people who were bidding were also sitting there with a sales catalog. They were looking to see what lot was coming up next. And so they were paying attention to the actual bid that was in front of them, but also preparing for the next. And we saw that a lot. Two of them working together, one kind of watching the spotter, the other saying, okay, the next kid is this. And so, like I said, Dakota and I were excited and over there high-fiving each other, almost a little bit giddy with how well it was going, because 2020 was a very difficult year. So we were quite thankful.
You mentioned turning things more towards the buyers. So many of them are using marketing budgets or are businesses. And so they like to see their name fly. And you mentioned the screens and feedback from other people. They like to see their name on that screen. And then the next lot comes through and they're, okay, we need to get our name on the screen again. Mm-hmm. So it helps.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately we're raising as much money as we can for these kids.
Mm-hmm. We are.
And even opening the door for them to strategize on the side. I've been in the buyer pool as well as, in your seat watching the buyers strategize, and anything you can put in front of them that gives them more fuel and, more planning that they can really get in there and bid it up really does help the youth.
Mm-hmm. Dakota and I have to work on, and I say Dakota and I because he's my, the younger version of, I have great ideas. He actually can produce them on the computer. He'll go, oh yeah, I know. And he'll grab the computer and away he goes. I'm like, oh, thank God for Dakota. There are times when I struggle with technology and he's just like, oh no, we can do that. So that partnership has worked out really well. He and I, when we went to the ShoWorks training in March of 2020, went specifically for ShoWorks. We did not go to the auction training. And so, we were both like, oh, we're not involved with that. And so then we get home and, for those that don't know, when we were there in Texas, we weren't sure we were going to be able to fly home. Everything was at that point of they were trying to decide what they were going to do. So we got home, we spent 2 weeks in quarantine, and then we realized we got to pivot. We got to figure out what we're going to do. And so then that's when we reached out to the auction. And 2020 was just a real kind of wing and a prayer. It
was.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we were determined that 2021 would be different. And then, again, with all that we learned in 2021, it's like, okay, with 2022, we're going to start earlier. We're going to do more marketing, like I said, towards the buyers and really pull some things into place so that it is hard. Change is always hard. But, when you go from a live auction to a virtual auction to a combination, and you don't really have the database or that, structure in place because it's always been live. That's what we're really having to go back and build and get our contacts. And, almost all of them are dealing off of their cell phones. It's just we didn't have cell phone numbers.
Right.
So that's been a big project, is that we've got to get the information to them. Most of the information in the database was landlines, and we couldn't connect.
I've noticed over the past couple of years with your sale, so y'all immediately had to pivot, and y'all had an online sale last year in 2020. And that almost forces, because you're signing it online, forces your buyers to provide you some information you hadn't had in the past. So now you have a better data collection from your buyers, more up-to-date collection from your buyers. You were in this emergency state. You're making things happen. And then, you start looking forward to 2021. You have that moment of, whew, we made it. We got some animals sold. We got some money raised. You start looking forward to 2021, and there was still so much unknown. How were you able to communicate with your buyers what to expect this year in 2021 about what is changed, what you're keeping, what is new, and when did you start that communication?
Dakota, I'm going to let you take this one from the standpoint of the youth, and then I'll add to it when you're done.
Yeah, so we, I think the biggest form and biggest outlets we used was my program and my ability to communicate with my members, as well as the FFA program and their ability to do the same. And so we really communicated that out to the members to keep them prepared, because I think our focus really is the kids selling the auction themselves. It's not,
right.
Yes, the auction committee brings in some buyers that they know, and they try and do a little bit of marketing here and there and communicate those same kind of things to their buyers. But we really focus on building that skill within the kids and giving them all the tools to succeed. One thing we did that I thought was really successful was we did a raffle, which you kind of think about how does a raffle necessarily play into the auction? Well, we sold, I think, over like 2,000 tickets. And part of that, when you're selling that many tickets, those kids are out in the community, talking to people, explaining what's going on. So, I think a really good way to communicate is exactly that. Use the kids and have them be your selling point. Because really, it truly, the basis of it is it's for the kids. And so, we use that as a tool.
And the buyers really want to hear from the youth why they chose that animal for the project or what they did. So we provide a letter to the youth that gives them all the links to the auction. We did a PDF that showed them, I screenshotted how they needed to go in as a buyer and register. We gave them contact information if they were having problems so that they could work with us and they didn't have to wait totally on the youth member to do that, because most of the youth were like, I don't know, somebody handed me a piece of paper. So that worked well.
ShoWorks Auction is taking junior livestock shows and sales by storm. As the leader in integrated live and online auctions, there's a viable solution to enhance every fair. Check out www.fairsoftware.com today.
That's awesome. As y'all wrapped up as you wrapped up 2021, I'm sure with it being an annual event, you're already thinking about next year. What kind of things that you've had to switch over to that you're thinking, wow, I'm glad we did it. We're going to keep that for sure. And then there might be some other things that, could come or go with whatever 2022 brings. But what are some things that you definitely want to see happen in 2022?
I think for me, it's the updating of the database, getting, kind of purging those people that aren't going to come back, setting up our marketing more towards making sure that they have everything they need so that when the youth contact them, they're ready to go. And we have looked at adding and building a website that is a little bit more, I've been out looking at different websites across the nation and going, okay, we could be better about getting our information out and having it accessible and making sure. So I think for me, it's a real marketing campaign from the auction side. I'm not sure, and again, the TV's definitely coming back. We've talked about a sound system. It really is about putting those things in place that we could do both, live and online without that interruption. And the thing that's been hard is the infrastructure at our fairgrounds. Like I said, it's been over 125 years of fairs. Is we don't have that internet capability in place. And that was one of our things we were a little discouraged about this year was if we tried to do a buyer online and there was that delay and it sold because we didn't have theirs. So we chose to do just live this year with the add-on feature. And then next year, we're looking at doing some infrastructure things to be able to have internet wired right into the barn and to be able to do an option of both. I still think people are going to prefer the live, but at least give them an option.
Yeah.
We've had a number of fairs. You're not alone, by the way. Auction barn is either the whole fairgrounds just doesn't have good internet, or maybe where the barn is with the metal roofs, it just doesn't, it's not reliable. And, good old telephone still works. They've had somebody in the back office with the computer watching online with a telephone call the whole day, someone next to the auctioneer saying, oh, we got a remote bid, which, think about it. 50 years ago, you might have had a bidder on the phone, but they had to have a dedicated person.
Right.
We're just kind of running that through the internet now.
Yeah. And realizing that, we have a large enough committee, we could have somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
We could each take a buyer, but Dakota, you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that, the biggest part that we've ran into and that we're looking to improve on is really the data collection and building that database, not only with the buyers, but with the kids. In our programs on the youth side, we have that information, but it's not necessarily easily shareable. So having the auction start kind of building their own, database and network of the kids and buyers is really what we're looking forward to in the next year and building that up.
Well, that's awesome. So each of you are really deep into the details of running the show, and you're constantly moving around nonstop, during the sale, making things happen. There's got to be some key players that help make your jobs easier. I mean, y'all are in the midst of it all, but I was wondering if there are key individuals or key roles leading up to the show and leading up to the sale, and even during and beyond that help make it a success.
Dakota and I are looking at each other. Which one's going to do it? So the livestock committee has 13 members, and I actually didn't join until 21. Dakota is a liaison, 4-H liaison, and then there are 3 FFA liaisons that are on the committee as well. The committee has, the normal structure of the president, vice president, treasurer, all of that. But the committee and, Adam Hopkins, Dan Reeves, Chrissy and Jamie Dixon, Julie Perry, and I'm going to forget somebody, but those are, the main ones that actually worked in the office and kept things moving. They have worked not only with having their own personal kids go through the program. Several have stayed on beyond. Their kids have graduated and are in college, and they have invested 10, 15 years into the program. And so they keep all of that moving. And Dan and I have talked. He's the treasurer, and he and I've been doing some bookkeeping things. And so that was another part of mine with ShoWorks, was bringing over and merging everything into QuickBooks and then dealing with the buyers on that side. And I have to say, I was completely amazed at all the background that happens in an auction. When you show up on Friday for that auction, you have no idea the weeks and the hours and the details that are in play behind that. And when I walked in, I thought, oh yeah, I understand it. I had no idea. They have walked me through and, chuckled with me. And I mean, sometimes it's like, they'd say, it's turkey number, blah, 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 and I'm like, they all look the same, and they tell me the breed or whatever, and I'm going, I don't know. So they giggle at me. I'm the non-animal person that has been allowed to come and play Dakota much the same. He'll go, oh, well, it was such and such a pig, and I'm like, okay, but they all know that animal side so well. and know what they're doing. I kind of do the bookkeeping and, the detailed database stuff. And they all just, as a matter of fact, last year I was helping and decided to bid and ended up with beef.
Wow.
Yeah. I was telling them, do not let me bid this year. My freezer is still full.
Your freezer's still full.
Yes. But, there are so many moving parts that it really is a team. And, we meet, I think 9 months out of the year, take off,
wow.
November, December, but the rest of the time. So it's constant work, and these gentlemen and ladies are highly committed to doing it. And it's been I've enjoyed working with them immensely.
And I think that that's what's really important, is just getting a group that's really committed to supporting these youth and supporting the auction, and putting in those long hours. And that's just the key to the success is having dedicated people around you.
Sounds like you'll have a really great team that pulls together excellently. So
we do. And we have fun. I mean, everybody, we're serious when we need to be serious, but not afraid to laugh, and enjoy it, because it's one of those things that, you spend a lot of time planning for an event, and the event happens, and afterwards you're almost sad because you're not going to see each other for a little bit. It has become quite a labor of love. So.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
So much about the auction is education of the next generation and the kids. For those kids who didn't make the standards and their animal didn't make the auction, is there any advice for those kids, or even the parents or the coaches that are helping them, to prepare for next time so that they can make sure that their animal does meet the standards and they don't, have a surprise, oh, it didn't make the auction this time?
Yeah, I'll take that one, because even though I'd love to hear Teri's answer, I think that my biggest advice, I grew up, raising animals and putting them into the auction each year, having breeding projects and actually my own herd at one point. And I think my biggest piece of advice for a kid who has a hard time making the standards, the requirements, whether it be weight requirements or even the quality requirements in the show ring, is really take a deep look at your feed program, and how you're feeding those animals. A high quality feed is going to produce high quality results, and that's really it. I tell kids this all the time. You cannot go to Walmart and buy a $14.99 50-pound bag of pig food and expect to have the same results as even a $39 a bag. And so that is my biggest piece of advice, is really, if you're having a hard time meeting those standards, reflect on your feed program, because that's the easiest way to change it.
That's great advice. Definitely goes a long way. If somebody wanted to get involved in the show, probably Dakota is the program coordinator. How would someone get started with showing?
Yeah, we start, as the 4-H program, we start at about 5 years old with our Cloverbud group. It's a non-competitive form of 4-H that kids show the small animals, and then about 9 years old we start them in the large animals. Nationwide, contact your local extension office, and they can get you all the details to signing up for 4-H in your county. 4-H is offered throughout pretty much every county in the nation. And so that's the best place. And if you can't find your local extension office, your land grant university, your state is another great resource.
Thanks for that. We appreciate the work that individuals such as yourself are doing in your own community to spread the education of ag throughout the community, and going through the work to produce such a successful show and opportunity at the sale for your exhibitors. So I just want to close real quickly. Do you have a favorite fair memory, maybe from that you have as growing up showing, Dakota or Teri? I mean, you came home with the beef, but is there something else that that you might want to share?
I think for me, it's been that community. I've always preferred the background and the behind the scenes and that community that takes place, and watching the joy on the faces of kids that are showing and grandparents who are coming to watch. I know again, Dakota and I, were beyond excited, and several of the committee members said they didn't want to know what the final number was. And so we had an after meeting, and watching their reactions, and you see that, all this hard work and it paid off, and so excited. And that's what the kids feel too when they're showing and participating, and they love having family and friends there to support them. And so that, I just like that whole emotional state. It's a happy, happy place. And I really like being there.
Yeah. And along the same lines, there's all kinds of little memories that I can think of that I still remember this day and talk to kids about. But I think that the best memory, this is kind of generic, but the whole experience, because really, a county fair, especially with youth programs, creates kind of a family. I, to this day, still have friends that I met in 4-H. When I go back home, I'm surprised at the people. I'll go out to a restaurant and be like, "Hey, I was in 4-H with you." And it would take us a couple seconds, and we'd finally figure it out. Okay, yeah, you were in this club and I was in that club. We create this community within our county fairs, and it just brings everybody together for 1 week a year, and just provides so much possibility for our kids and our community.
Oh, that's great. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us here on the County Fair podcast. I loved getting to talk about y'all's record year. The Tillamook Cheese Factory, I will be back to visit it. I've gone, and it's a wonderful experience for anyone attending, visiting Tillamook. And then I'm probably going to have to check out that pig and Ford race. That sounds wonderful. I've not heard of anything as unique as that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. We'd love to have you come.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the County Fair podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend, and tell us what you'd like to hear on the show by going to www.countyfairpodcast.com. And to you and yours, may God bless you.